Welcome to the DraftKings Daily Trot. I'm Jason Gilbo, JGilbo11. With me is Russell Clay at Russell J. Clay. Taking a look at tonight's 15-game slate, it does include a Coors game there. And overall, I mean, there are a lot of other options you can kind of go with really outside. But the pricing on DK, they price some of those bats like in Texas, like in San Francisco. They're right around Coors, so there's not really a lot of a difference.
Yeah. Again, 15 games, so there's never should be an issue of sort of running out of options, There's always options in every range at most positions. So on a 15 game or so, I think we should be doing just fine here.
Yeah, definitely. And moving to catcher, you get a lefty in Coors against this Diamondbacks offense. Obviously, they're going to come one of the top, the top offense of the night. And Wellington Castillo at 4K is right where I want him. It's a really nice price tag. I was expecting to see it really higher when I opened up the laptop this morning. And he takes Posey out of play. Obviously, Herman's going to sit with the lefty. He's the guy for me, and I don't mind paying up.
Yeah, and you look at the guys in his range as well, and it's not really all that competitive. It's kind of just like they handed him the ball and said, "All right, Wellington Castillo, you win." So clear top tier option. I'm not paying 1,100 more for Posey, especially in like a cash game or something. So clear winner for Castillo right there.
Yeah, I definitely agree, and it takes a lot of plays out of him. I mean, Russell Martin's not really in play for me. Wilson Ramos, I mean, all just 100 less. It takes that whole kind of chunk out of play. I mean, you can look at them as being contrarian, but I'm not really quite sure spinning off of Wellington Castillo against a lefty in Coors is the way to go, especially at that price tag.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I think McCann's in play if he's in there, but beyond that, I think you're jumping down.
Yeah, I think so too. And you're looking at really, I mean, Wilson Contreras at 2,800 is kind of my punt play. 2,800 to hit right in the middle of the lineup. Rizzo, day-to-day still. You're looking at the catching situation. They're banged up. So he should find his way back into the lineup. And as a cheap guy, I think 2,800 is a reasonable price against Kohler, who's pitched well, but still really isn't a steady right-handed arm.
No, certainly not someone you're avoiding. So yeah, I definitely like that call. And I mean, I guess it depends on. So Jake Peavy's going to be a discussion we're going to have today, but he has been pitching well, so I don't know if Cameron Rupp's totally in play, but I do think there's some Philly sort of tournament options you can throw in there. But as you mentioned with Contreras right there, 26 might not be a big enough dive down to make it make sense.
Yeah, I think so. And, you look at that PV, I think he is going to carry a little bit of ownership on today's slate just because of the matchup, him being home, him pitching well of late, with the Coors slate. So I do think the Phillies' exposure is going to be really low owned. And you got to imagine, I mean, PV still isn't, a good pitcher, and he's average at best now. And I do think you can take some chances. Contreras being 200 more is a little bit different, but there are some other Philly names I think we'll kind of talk about as we go.
And also down at 2,200, 2,300, we got Rivera and Plawecki for the Mets. So if you need a true punt, they should be right there for you.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, outside of that, I do think you're kind of just once again waiting for those lines to churn out, looking for a catcher that's maybe hitting sixth or seventh and trying to get a guy in a good spot. The Padres, I mean, we were high on them yesterday. A little bit less so today, just because Reed misses some more bats. But they still are in play. A guy like Derek Norris, and coming off of a 3-run homer game, him hitting lefties well, and most of those guys hitting lefties well, still in play for me is kind of a swerve because we're in American Ballpark's a really solid place for right-handed power.
Definitely.
So,
definitely.
Looking at first base here, and you look at this log jam up top. I mean, I liked Ortiz in today's matchup. I mean, anyone against Nick Martinez is going to be playable for me. I was hoping he'd come maybe at a $500, $600 difference, but the fact that he's more expensive than Goldschmidt, who's once again facing a lefty in Coors, you're paying up over $5K. It's going to be
I can't get off Goldschmidt. I just Can't do it. The matchup's perfect. The park factors are perfect. Goldschmidt hitting well. I mean, obviously he didn't get the home run last night, but 3 hits, 2 hits the night before, showing some power in the previous few weeks. I mean, this is just money for me. In cash games again, I'm just going right back to it. So, I do like Ortiz, obviously in play, but more for tournaments for me.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you're looking at this Boston offense. I mean, they've been really slipping over the last couple of weeks now and getting shut out by relatively, weak arms at times. And
Yeah.
moving to Texas, facing Nick Martinez, you expect a little bit of a jump start to happen again. They're still in play for me. The prices of some of these guys really aren't intriguing because they're priced around cores, but they are definitely worth the mention because Martinez is really a subpar righty.
Yep, so, he certainly is.
Yeah. And like I mentioned, I mean, I was kind of looking at the Giants. I was hoping they'd be a value stack tonight, but they're not really here on DraftKings. 4,900 for Belt is a little bit overpriced for me. I think I'd rather just spin up to that 5K range. So I think you can kind of dive down.
I hate those nights where you're just expecting, all right, you go and look at the slate before. All right, I'm going to go stack Giants tonight. And then you're like, wait, Brandon Belt's 5K? Ah, Matt Duffy's 4,500? Yeah. Well. I got to go back and do more research then.
Yeah, it's iffy. I was hoping they'd be the value plays, but
yeah,
they're not. Joey Votto's back in the lineup. I like him a bit here versus Colin Rea. Rea, your average righty. It's just a matter of if Votto's back. I mean, he had the flu. He did pinch hit last night, so that's kind of a good sign that he's feeling better. I think you'll see him. And at 4,400, that's a nice price tag.
Oh, here she is again. Oh, it is Laura.
It's
Laura's
Laura.
calling. Yeah, she's calling.
10:15.
Yep. I had a tough time initially deciding who I liked between this Tigers offense and Danny Salazar, and I think I'm fading Detroit tonight altogether. I actually like Salazar against righties, so I'm not touching Cabrera or Upton or Kinsler tonight.
No, I'm definitely with you. I'm fading the Tigers. Are not really an option for me on the 15-game slate. Salazar's been way too good, and as you mentioned, tough on righties. I'll look at Alex Rodriguez. I mean, he's a cheap guy to consider. I mean, Tommy Malone's home run pro and 1.32 home runs per night since 2015. The righties, 3.33 WOBA allowed. So he's intriguing at that price tag.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and another guy, Chris Carter, obviously out tonight because of Scherzer.
He literally could strike out 4 times tonight.
I mean, him and basically all the righties for the Brewers, it could get really, really ugly. Villar's like the only guy that I looked at, and I was like, all right, Villar, here you go. You got a shot here.
Oh, man. It's a rough life.
I mean, 10 strikeouts. I won't say guaranteed, but I'd say 8 strikeouts guaranteed for Scherzer tonight.
Oh, I think so. I think 8+ is definitely going to happen. Yeah. And Carter is going to get 3 or 4.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you there.
Diving low, I mean, John Jasos had a couple of multi-hit games or multi-on-base games. Actually, not at all. A couple one-hit games, but he's gotten 714, 7 DK points. 2,900 for him against Tapshes is a guy who you can take a look at. I don't mind him on the slate. Obviously, if you're paying up on the hill and trying to get a monster pitching lineup in, Jaso 2,900 is not a bad option.
Definitely.
So outside of that, I mean, there isn't really a whole much I like down low. I mean, Gonzalez hasn't really shown. What?
I like Gene Segura.
Are we moving over to second base?
Mm-hmm.
All righty, take it away, sir.
Once again, much like Paul Goldschmidt, I'm not too worried about sort of last night. Obviously, he didn't totally come through for you with only that one hit, but I think you go back to this well with the Diamondbacks again tonight and sort of hope. I mean, I know I didn't totally have all the Jake Lamb stacks of the world in my Diamondback moves, so that was unfortunate. But yeah, back to Segura. Him and Goldschmidt are cash game viable for me.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they're high priced. That's the only thing that's, they're downside. But um, I think you can kind of look down here. I mean, Daniel Murphy, 4,100 is intriguing. Yes, he's been slumping. He hasn't really been quite himself as of late, but in that ballpark, Zach Davies, I mean, obviously has been pretty decent this year, but still playable for me at that price tag now.
Yeah, definitely like that call. 4,100. And I mean, you look at that range, it's very tempting, but again, Cano doesn't have a perfect matchup, neither does Kinsler. So Murphy's really the one that stands out in that range to me.
Yeah, and I don't mind Pedroia. I mean, 3 months
Yeah.
in a row with 2 hits. Against Nick Martinez, I mean, since 2015, it's been, 389 WOBA against right-handers. So I
Hmm.
think, you can look at some of those Red Sox righties. I mean, you can look at Hanley, even at first base at his price tag. Didn't mention him, but I think you can kind of be picky with some of the value bats in this Boston team.
Yeah, definitely agree.
So um, outside of that, I mean, you can uh, look lower for me. I mean, Starlin Castro at 3,300 against the lefty in Yankee Stadium is really intriguing. That's kind of where I'm looking for value at second base at that price tag.
Yeah, I like Neil Walker, 3,400. Obviously Solarte sort of just chilling there, but again, I think that little streak he had there might have been more of an illusion than what we can really realistically expect from him, even though he is hitting sort of in a pivotal spot in their order. I think it's kind of coming back down, and it's kind of tough to rely on him at this stage. So 3,200, I'm still not necessarily buying into it, but if you're looking for a cheap guy, I think it's a decent way to go.
Yeah, I'm not quite on them as much as I was last night, just because the slate's going to force your hand a little bit. But
Hmm.
here, I don't mind him as a pump play. I do like Castro a little bit better. I think a little more upside there. You look at that park. I mean, Yankee Stadium. Obviously, they're both solid parks for right-handed power, but I don't mind really either one of them. But I think Castro's the guy I kind of lean with.
Yeah.
So outside of that, I think those are kind of the two lowest guys that I'll be taking a look at tonight.
Yeah, Danny Worth, if he's in the lineup, 2,700 against Volquez. I'm not too confident in Volquez nowadays, but yeah, other than that, I think I'm sticking in the medium range there.
Mhm. Third base, you got Josh Donaldson, 5,500 facing a lefty, banged up, but has been playing. So I think you're looking at him. Uh, you know, you look at these top guys. I mean, Arenado, Josh Donaldson. I mean, both in good spots. Obviously, Arenado has the cores factor. Um, you know, for me, I'm leaning Arenado, but obviously, I think this is a position that's pretty deep tonight.
I think you just fit all these guys in. You'd go Segura, Donaldson, Goldschmidt, and then Buster Posey, and you just keep rolling like that. I think you just fit them all in. It's pretty easy. I mean, no, yeah. Unfortunately, you're not going to be able to fit most of these guys in general. But I do like Arenado tonight. I think you can just kind of go back to the well here. Donaldson, I actually like Arenado a little more than Donaldson tonight. So that's going to be the way I'm going. Obviously, Donaldson in play, but in terms of the high end options, he's not my first or even second option.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I do think you can kind of spin down. I mean, we talked about Alex Rodriguez. Danny Valencia, kind of a nice price there, 4,000 against Weaver. Weaver's, pitched up and down this season overall. I mean, still not a quality arm. And you look at him, I mean, gives up a ton of homers. Obviously, the ballpark is a little bit against Valencia, but he's shown some power out there in Oakland, and which is right around there as far as park factors go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely agree there. The the Jung Ho Kangs of the world, the Pirates of the world. So, Tepesh isn't in the lineup.
I don't think he's just pitching for Detroit. That he's not pitching for Texas. He used to pitch for Texas, but he's pitching for the Dodgers.
Hmm. 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 So I guess we don't totally. Who do you know who's pitching for them then?
What do you mean?
For the Dodgers?
It's Nick Tepsch.
Okay. So Then I don't know. I don't know. Let's just move on.
Okay, I'm looking at Kang. I think he's intriguing at that price tag.
Okay.
You look at Tepsch. I mean, really, your average arm, and you're getting confused by him still being on Texas and him not showing up in that breaking update up there. He's on the
No, I'm not confused. I just don't know who's going to be pitching for them now.
no. Tepsch is
But
pitching for the Dodgers.
oh, I don't understand life. Life just is confusing sometimes. And then you just sit here and you just go into your spreadsheets and pretend that none of it ever happened. And that's probably what I'm about to do after this podcast is over.
You need to go take a nice warm shower and just sleep that one off because call it a day.
Oh man.
In that same range.
That reminds me of school. That's how I felt in school. Like,
Oh yeah, like
what do you mean the answer is that? That doesn't make any sense. Russell. No, that's wrong. What do you mean that's wrong?
yeah, that was definitely not a good look.
That's how I was in school, folks. So anyway, moving down here at third. I think there are some decent one-offs and bad spots, but beyond that, I don't think you're really looking at anything for cash.
No, I mean Drury option to AAA, so he kind of takes. We don't have to before we don't have to keep guessing, so he's gone. Um, there are some guys in bad spots. I mean, obviously there's some bigger names down here like Justin Turner and Frazier. I don't mind Turner. I know Talian's highly touted prospect, but he's given up a couple home runs in his few starts. He'd be the only guy to take a kind of a shot on at that price tag. And obviously Solarte at 3,200 here is kind of another value.
Definitely. And again, Price has been good and he was really good last outing. So I don't think you can really target him at this stage, but some of these Rangers bats are intriguing prices.
Yeah, they definitely are. And obviously it's a good ballpark, warm weather there. So you would have to kind of take a shot that Price really regresses back down to what he was doing before the season, or in
Which
April and May.
I don't think it's likely, but something to think about.
Yeah, I don't think so either. You're looking at shortstop, and for me, this is a spot where I'm going to be trying to pay down quite a bit at. There are some guys at decent price tags in that mid-range, and I think that kind of takes a lot of plays out up top for me, like a Bogarts. I mean, obviously, Story's very much in play at home against Bradley. But I think you can kind of look down here. I mean, Correa at 4,100. You talked about Volk as, not really scaring away from you from some of these Astros bats.
Yeah, I like Correa quite a bit. I think that's a good call. And again, compared to a lot of the guys that are above him, they don't really appeal to me. That Miller, Lindor, Crawford, Nunez tier doesn't really do it for me. I love my boy Aledmys Diaz, but that's pretty expensive for him. So I'm not sure I'm in on that either.
Yeah, and I'm not. And I think really for me, I mean, I'm going to be looking to punt this position entirely. It's going to be one of those situations where, one, I'm going to be looking at lineups. I'm going to see what the Angels do as far as their middle infield goes, because you're looking at, Eric Surkamp. I mean, over 400 WOBA against righties, and I think you're kind of looking at some of those Angels bats, and some of them do come at some value. And even in the back end of the line, they're going to open up some salary for other positions.
Yeah, and Javier Baez 3,200 again. So as mentioned, not afraid of Kohler.
Yeah, definitely not. And outside of that, I mean, I do think you can kind of go mid range, but also, I mean, if you're willing to get in a Goldschmidt and a high price Arenado, you're going to have to do some deep diving and sort of go down and dig into that really deep range.
Jordy Mercer, if he's in the lineup.
How much is he?
2,500.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's going to be the thing is waiting until lines come out and seeing what happens.
Mm-hmm.
So, Outfield here, for me, I mean, obviously the Rockies bats come really into play. Blackman, Gonzalez, you have Betts smashed right in the middle of them. I think he's kind of going to carry. He's still, 10% ownership. I think Betts is still going to get some calls there, but he would be kind of the pivot out of that group.
Yeah, definitely a pivot and probably the lowest owned of that sort of upper 5K tier between him, Cargo, and Blackman. So I think he's in play, but it's kind of tough to trust the Red Sox right now. But I think that could always turn around pretty quickly. Jay Bruce, decent option. Him and Votto, if they're in the lineup, I don't mind them as sort of a mini contrarian stack because if you have those guys, that's going to be pretty low on tonight, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And I like the Orioles right-handed bats, Adam Jones and Mark Trumbo, 4,700, 4,400 for Trumbo. Trumbo's at a really nice price tag, kind of in that mid-range. And I do think you got a lot of lefty mashers in that area. I mean, Matt Kemp facing a lefty, Stephen Piscotty. Obviously, Piscotty's park factors are the worst of those names, but those guys are very much in play. And I'm really looking at Gregory Polanco at 4,300. I think he's going to be in a ton of my lineups at that price tag.
Yeah, I definitely like that call. Obviously, Polanco sort of come down a little bit from his early season pace, but still a good hitter. 4,300, not too bad there. So I definitely like that.
Yeah, definitely. And you got Peter O'Brien, 4,300. I mean, obviously not a consistent guy, but in cores against a lefty is playable for me.
That's a bummer price for him.
Yeah, you're kind of hoping to be a little bit, maybe 36, 3,500.
Yeah,
it wasn't going.
Right.
The way things have moved on this late, I mean.
He hit that homer pretty early on, and then he hit another one, and it was like, all right, yeah, this isn't going to last very long, is it?
No.
Yeah.
But, I mean, if Ricky Weeks is in the lineup at 3,700, he would be kind of the better price tag facing the lefty.
For sure.
So, one Phillies guy I don't mind against PV tonight is Odubel Herrera at 3,800. He's been consistent this season, and at that price tag, I really like it. Obviously, big ballpark, but he hits one to the gap, he's going to run for days, and does have some stolen base upside.
Yeah, no, I like that call too. Stanton, what do we do?
Once again, I mean, last night, I mean, you talked about Ozuna and the Stanton being guys, and those are the only two that he needed to work around, and of course he didn't. He gives up, two slow shots to him. I think he's in play. Hendricks has been pretty solid this season, but I think Stanton is in play. Certainly at the price tag.
It's happening. I mean, he's still striking out a lot. Like, obviously struck out twice last night, struck out twice the night before. So things are still weird for him, but I think the power's coming back, so I'm in. Team Stanton.
Oh, God. You're such a jeez. There are some guys in that range I really do like, and I think you can actually build a reliable outfield lineup if you're paying up at the infield for less. I mean, I like Lorenzo Cain at that price tag against Keuchel. I mean, Keuchel hasn't really been that great this year. Cain at 3,600 is really intriguing.
Yeah. Keuchel is a very interesting pivot point, whether you trust him or you don't tonight, because if you don't, I think you can definitely stack against him. And I mean, I think he could also be a decent tournament play as well. He's just so random. So I'm leaning towards stacking against him, which would obviously put Cain in a nice spot there.
Yeah, so Royals bats are pretty cheap.
So yeah, I definitely like that.
Yeah, and Joey Ricard, 3,500. He's pretty much been the only guy who against lefties has been what he's been doing lately. And at that price, I don't mind him, especially if he's hitting the top half of the order. So, outside of that, I mean, you mentioned Stanton at 3,200. I mean, you can get kind of some cheap guys down here. Outside of that, I mean, you're looking at some of these guys that are in tougher matchups. I mean, a lot of these Mets guys are cheap, but Andrew McCutchen at 3K against Tevsh.
I saw that.
is something that's intriguing. I mean, obviously, Kutch hasn't really been that great, but when you can get him a Kutch in a 3K against an average right-hander, that's going to put him very much in play for me, especially on a slate where if you want to pay for Scherzer and get some names. How often can you actually put Stanton, McCutchen, and Scherzer into a lineup? You go back a year from now, that's not possible. Without
Right.
completely punting. Now they're the punts. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely, I'm definitely with you there. You see McCutcheon at 3K, your instant move is to just click him in. But I think that is a good option, but I don't think it's necessarily you have to do it either. So, something to think about for sure.
No, you definitely don't have to. I mean, for one, I mean, I do think because he's at a punt play price, he's going to be really intriguing. Just because,
Mhm.
once again, I mean, he just carries that big name factor, and the pitching against him really isn't, one that's going to make you shy away. So for me, I like him quite a bit. I'm going to probably be plugging him into a ton of my lineups.
Hey, that's fair. I can respect that.
Good. I'm glad. Anyone else you're looking at here at the outfield?
Not particularly. There's some guys. I mean, Nomar Mazara is 2,500 against Price. I know, but it's just like 2,500. So I don't think you can really do any of that, but there are some decent options down there. I'm just not too intrigued by them, I guess.
Yeah, and I mean Chris Coughlin, 2,400. If he's in the
Yeah,
lineup, which he should be, I'd much rather use him at second base at 2,400 than outfield. But QB, yeah, worth mentioning if he's up on the top of the lineup against Kohler.
definitely. And that was the guy I was looking at and was like, well, Coughlin. Like,
It's a cheap. I mean, you're going to need some punts, and I think we've listed off a reasonable amount of
yeah,
them. So
for sure.
that's going to wrap things up here with the DK Daily Trot. Be sure to check out DailyFantasyCafe.com for all our great tools and content.